Oh, I was muted. That's embarrassing. Hey guys, we're live now, and we'll just have Roger kick us off with a few comments.
Hello, everyone. So welcome to the Bixby office hours. Today is pretty special because we have Van, a colleague of mine who has done a bunch of work in the Bixby Developer Studio, who's going to talk about debugging and testing your capsule. And I love listening and talking to Van because I learn something new every time I do. So I'm as excited about this as anyone out there to listen to this presentation. So brief introduction, my name is Roger Kibbe. I'm a senior developer evangelist for Viv Labs, and Viv Labs is the engine behind the new Bixby. Van, you want to introduce yourself?
Roger, thank you. My name is Van Bugner. I'm a member of the Bixby Studio development team, and I have been developing for 20 plus years. I went to UC Berkeley for a CS degree, and I've worked on user interfaces most of my career, and a lot of that time has been spent working on integrated development environments for custom tools such as Bixby Developer Studio. It seems like everywhere I go, everything always ends up being called something studio. And I'm here today with my two dogs in the office, so hopefully they won't make a bunch of noise.
So we have two Cal Bears because I went to Berkeley too. So go Bears!
Yes,
all right,
I'm the only Aggie here because I went to UC Davis. So, yeah, I'm Jonathan Pan, technical evangelist. I also work with these two guys, pretty awesome guys, and yeah, can't wait to get started with the presentation. And with that, we'll let Van take it away.
Okay, thank you. Today's presentation is about debugging your capsules. We're going to make it kind of a flow like a story. We've been handed a capsule that somebody else wrote most of, and we're going to have to try to finish it up, fix the bugs in it, and get it ready for submission. So to do that today,
hey, I'm so sorry, Van. Can I interrupt? If you haven't, I completely forgot this. Apologies. If you have any questions, we're going to do about a 30-minute presentation and 30 minutes of Q&A. Please ask them in the YouTube chat. If there's simple things we can answer right away, we may answer them in the chat. Otherwise, we'll be collecting those questions, and then we'll have a conversation after Van's presentation about it. So start asking your questions in the YouTube chat. Okay, go ahead. Sorry about that, Van, but wanted to make that clear to everyone.
No worries. All right, we're going to use Bixby Developer Studio today to examine the capsule that we've been handed, see what we can learn about it, and then we'll try to test it, and we'll find answers to the problems that we discover using the Debug Console. So just real quick review of Bixby Developer Studio. It's a desktop application used for creating voice assistant applications, or we call them capsules for Bixby. It edits local files on your laptop and syncs them with Bixby in the cloud to provide you with a simulation of what your capsule will look like when you run it on a device. And in Studio, you define the concepts around the things in your capsule and the code that will be used to satisfy the requirements. The capsule that we've been handed is the Movie Agent capsule. This is a capsule we developed as a sample last year. You can find it for free on GitHub, and the link to it's down there. And we'll have a link to it afterwards on our notes about this presentation. The capsule helps people choose a movie. So it's like those days you're sitting there in front of your TV, you don't know what to watch, but this capsule can help you look for a movie maybe that you'd like to watch depending on the genre or the actors that you've seen in it or when it was released. It connects to a real REST API on the web. I think it's the moviedb.org. And so we're going to figure out how this capsule works. Let me switch to Bixby Studio for that. Okay, so I've already opened the Movie Agent capsule. I cloned it from the GitHub and put it in my directory. And I have to say, I might have hit a few surprises in it for us to debug today. And here it's open in Bixby Studio. The first thing I typically look at when I'm examining a capsule is the capsule.bxb file. This file contains the the name of the capsule and the targets it's meant for, as well as the libraries it might be importing, and some other information about the capsule, which countries it's available in, etc. Another file that's very useful for understanding a capsule is the endpoints capsule. You can usually find this under the base. Let's see, let's close these up. This one, the all.endpoints.bxb file. This file is pretty key for understanding the actions that the capsule can take and where the code is for those actions. So we're going to focus today on the find movie action. And you can see here it takes three kinds of inputs, a release date expression, person or genre for the movie, and then the code that it looks in is in findmovie.js. That's here in the capsule. So let's start by looking at the model for this find movie concept. So we're going to find it under the models, find movie. Okay. This is going to show you that this action, find movie, here collects these three different kinds of inputs: the release date, time, expression, person, genre. This is all information that will be useful for us to understand when we go to look at the capsule with the Debug Console. Also, this has an output of movie. Movie is the concept that it puts out. So let's go, we can find movie over here under the structures. So this is the data that comes out at the result of finding a movie. It contains all the things about the movie that we're going to want to show the user. All right, let's go back and look at the endpoints real quick here. The other thing we wanted to follow this to was the code. So the findmovie.js file, we're going to find that up here under the code folder. Let's see, findmovie.js, there it is. We can see this imports a tmdb.js file from the library. It takes these things as inputs. It uses the discover movie function in the tmdb file to figure out the movie. Okay, so let's go look at that. This is the file we're going to be looking at quite a bit, because here's the discover movie function. And here's the real magic is happening in this capsule. There's a URL in here that can use with the moviedb.org, and it assembles the query and the arguments to go in the URL, and then down here it calls the get URL to actually find out about the movies. All right, another great thing to look at when you're trying to understand a capsule is the training. So we'll open the training console here. This is our new version 2 of the training. So we look in here for English. We're going to see all the different things. These have goal of movie. If you want, you can limit it to just goal for movie. 25 items that will show you a movie. Show me movies released in 2000. What movies did a certain actor star in? Okay, these are great. We can try some of these out in the simulator. All right, simulator you get to by clicking on the little phone icon over here. So let's try out something. Find a science fiction movie.
Here are a few science fiction movies.
All right, so that's how the capsule works. In a minute, I'm going to dive into the Debug Console from here, but before we go there, I just want to review real quick what we've learned about the movie agent capsule. So it has a structure, and this structure is something that we'll be seeing reflected in the Debug Console. It starts with the user saying find a movie, and then it looks for the movie. The goal is to find the movie concept. And it does this with the action called find movie, and it requires the inputs of a person, release date, genre. The endpoint is the JavaScript file we were looking at. And even though I didn't really touch on these files, there's a bunch of view and layout files that determine how it looks. So that's not really a focus of today's presentation, but you saw that in the simulator when we asked for the movie. It had a nice layout with the images and so forth. So that all comes from the view files. All right, so we're going to use the Debug Console to find, to test this thing and figure out a few answers to problems we see. The Debug Console comes up in a separate window, and you can run it after the simulator, and that's what I'll dive back in there and we'll go to it. The Debug Console is, it's not like a standard debugger. It doesn't let you step through the code while it's executing. It doesn't quite work like that. Instead, it allows you to analyze what happened on the Bixby platform. Because all of the work in your capsule happens in the cloud, that all happens before the results are sent down back to us to look at in the simulator. And what the Debug Console allows us to do is analyze what happened there. How did it come up with the answer? How did it use the endpoints, the code, the training that we gave it? How did it use all those things to come up with the answer that we saw? And it's often very helpful to use that analysis to figure out what went wrong when it doesn't do what we expect it to do. Okay, so let's dive into the Debug Console here. So once you've run something like this in the simulator, there's a little bug icon up here you can use to open the Debug Console. I'll click on that. And this is what the Debug Console looks like when everything went right. You don't see any red in the window, for one thing. And you see the plan here in the left side, or what the analysis came up with. The NL input is what the user provided. And you can dive into this to see how it matched what they said. The things they said: find a science fiction movie. And down here, you'll see that the platform understood that find a science fiction movie matched something in the training where the goal was, down here we see the goal was a movie, and the movie genre turned out to be science fiction. And here you can see the text is highlighted to show that it picked the movie genre. So that input provided a movie genre here. So this node in the tree shows you, okay, the result of the movie genre was science fiction. And that became an input to the find movie function, which is this one I've selected here. There were two other optional inputs that could have come into the find movie, the date, time, expression, or the person, these two here, but they weren't provided. And so it shows empty result. And so the find movie action gets, here this function section shows the find movie function, the one that we had in the code, and it had a web request, the discover movie web request. If we select that, we can see the URL that it came up with. The code came up with this URL. The discover movie URL we had hard coded, but then we had an API key, and then we had a genre that it used for science fiction. If we scroll down further, we can see the response that came back from the server was a status 200, so everything was great. Keep going. We can look at the response body. Came back with a page full of results for each movie. I think here's your, well, there's a lot of data here, but each of the movies has one of these results. And finally, the movie goal output was the results that we saw. So less detail, a little more about just the things that fit into the movie concept that we were looking at earlier in the capsule. Okay, so this is when everything is working. Let's break something and see what happens. So we're going to go back to the code. Let's see. So a very common thing that happens when you are trying to use an API on the web is you use the wrong URL of some sort. So we're gonna mess up this URL so that it's not the right one. Let's try it out in the simulator and see what happens now.
I ran into a problem.
Yeah, because nothing came back from the API, I'm sure, but we don't know that yet when we're looking at this. So let's look at the debugger and see what happened. All right, you'll notice right away we got some red in here. The function for find movie had problems. The function failed because it got a status 404 from the web request. We can look at a little more of that detail by diving into that functions section again we were in earlier with the requests. We can see it's red all the way down here to the discover movie request. And if we look at it, here we can see the URL. Now, if that's not enough to show us, oh, hey, that's wrong, you can scroll down and you can look at the response that came back from the server. It gave you a status code 34, the request resource could not be found. Typically the kind of message you get from an API when you choose an API that's not there. So this would show us, oh, okay, we've got a problem with this URL. So if you wanted to know where to find this, you could search for the parts of it that you imagine are going to be in the code somewhere. Well, all of this actually will be in the code. So we'll copy this. We'll go back to the window. We're going to use Shift Command F, which is the find. You can also find that up here under Edit. It's Find in Files. And we'll paste in what we found. Try to find that. Okay. Ooh, no match is found. Maybe I don't have the HTTPS on it. There it is. Okay. If we double click on that, we'll see it take us right to the code up here that was the problem. All right, there we go. We we look at the API reference and we figure out how to fix this. Come back to the simulator, run that again. I imagine it's going to work this time.
Here are a few science fiction movies.
Okay, so one of the, I'm going to move on to something else now. One of the things that I love to do when I'm debugging JavaScript code or anything like it is put in a few console logs and see what's going on. So I've picked a place in the code. And we can do that. Right here in the Discover Movie. Okay, in the Discover Movie function, for our convenience, I've added this console log. If there's a release date time expression in what we've done, then it should log something for us here. We've decided to log the release date time expression itself. So let's create a query that has a release date time expression. So find a movie from, let's see, let me reset this. Find a movie from 1989.
Here are a few movies released in 1999.
All right, so let's go look at the debugger and see how this played out. So the input we have for find movie is a time now. If we click on this, we'll see, oh, look, it created a date time interval with a start on January 1st, 1999, and an end on December 31st, 1999. So there's our time input came into find movie. We put our console log in the find movie function. So if we select from the functions find movie, there's a logs entry now under find movie, and this will show us here's our release date time expression, and we also logged an object from the JavaScript file, and so that shows up here. Happens to be the date interval with the start and end times we were just talking about. So that's our console log. Now, this kind of information is typically available anyway, as you saw from our time expression over here. The date time interval, the expression that came up with is actually available here. If you're wondering, how did it figure out we meant all of 1999? This time expression comes from a library, viv.time. In the debug console, you can choose to show imported executions. That entire library right now has been hidden. If we check this box, now everything that happened in the library is being shown. So this time expression came from, let's go to the top. All right. First, it found the 1999 as a time.year, and then it came in to resolve ambiguities. This is part of the library's function, and it figured out that, well, if all you say is the year, you must mean the entire year, and so it determined that it should give you an interval that contains the whole year, and then it constructed a date time expression based on the fact it was an interval, and that's what you got from here. Okay, so that's something else I want to try. Say I'm testing this capsule and I want to figure out if it handles problems. What if I say find a movie from 2030, knowing that there are no movies from that year yet?
I couldn't find any movies released in 2030. So blarg, blarg, blarg.
Well, that's kind of rude. Not sure who left that dialogue in there. We need to figure out how to fix that. So I'm going to dive into the Debug Console and show you how it determines where dialogue comes from, if you want to know why it said what it said. All right, in the debugger, let's see, we're going to close the time library again so we can see other things better. For this, we need to dive into the conversation section. And you get input, your natural language input here. Let's see. Well, all right, it took our 2030. All right, that's not exactly the output we were looking for. Let's look at the, let's see. Let's look at the, You know, it's interesting. I rehearsed this morning so that I would know where everything was. And when I was rehearsing, I forgot where to find this. So I have forgotten again. I rehearsed forgetting it. So it's part of the output that you're looking for. So I think it is, no, it's not in the context. Oh, here's the dialogues. Aha, okay. It's under dialogues. So the output dialogues are in this section. And when it was playing, first it says searching for movies, which it'll show down here. If we select it, it'll show that searching for movies is system generated. Okay. We didn't actually give that text. But if it says I couldn't find any movies, okay. There's your blarg, blarg, blarg. So let's expand this and select on blarg, blarg, blarg. Okay. So that comes from a template in this template macro dest file. So we can click on this link to get to the file, or we can click on this icon up here. Either one's going to go to the same place. It'll take us to the right template file. So this template file has a lot of stuff in it. So we're going to have to search. I'll just do Command F and put blarg. You can find it. Here it is. This is part of a movie no result macro. And it's right at the end there. So all we would need to do is edit this to remove it. Fix this thing. The movie no result. Let's see. One of the other things I think I wanted to show you in here was, if you click on this one up here, it shows you the whole phrase, and it comes from a view file down here, the movie result view. So if we click on this, you'll see the result view contains, there's a template it uses for, okay. All right, so we're in the views here, movie result. So this is,
Evan, isn't it if the size of the result is equal to 0, then I see it's calling a macro over there, right?
this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's template macro there.
Yeah, that's how it called. That's how it deals with it. But it should have been called movie no result here, I think. So I think I might be looking at the. No, I guess I'm looking. Oh yeah, here's the right file. Movie no result dialog. This is where it calls the template macro. Movie no result. So what the reason I came over here to the dialogues is because I wanted to show you that when you create a dialogue, it has a mode. This one has the no result mode, but there's also this one that has the result mode. And the reason I wanted to point this out is because one of the things that I came across when I first created a capsule was I saw that progress dialogue, the system generated, this searching for movies up here. It's system generated, but I wanted to put something of my own in here. And one of the key things the Debug Console can show you is that the mode of the dialogue. So if we wanted to make our own dialogue for this, we would need to make a dialogue file that it wasn't for results like this one is. This one is the no result mode, but we want to make one that's for progress mode. So all we would have to do is come over here and make another dialogue file and put progress here instead of result. And then we could create the text that comes out for progress. So that's just, the debugger has lots of information in it. So a lot of times your first step should be go look at the debugger and find out everything you can from it. That's what happened. Okay, so I'm going to go into another thing about the debugger now. For any particular capsule, there is a hints file for each language. And these are the hints that your capsule gives to users when they look at your capsule in the marketplace. Your capsule is supposed to work for these. So if somebody hands us this capsule and says, you need to finish this capsule up, get it working, we need to make sure all these hints work. So I'm going to look at these last two. Let's see, I've done the other ones already. These two are both variations on a theme about finding a movie with a particular actor in a particular year. So first we'll try find a movie, a 2017 movie with Chris Hemsworth. Let's see.
Here are a few movies released in 2017 with Chris Hemsworth.
Okay, that one appears to work. If we go here to the Debug Console, we'll see the natural language input included the year and the actor, and they got matched to the time, date, expression, and a person name. Here is where it matched the person name. And Chris Hemsworth, great. Okay, so we have this is interesting. Before it gets to find movie, we're discovering that it has a find person action. That's just doing for us automatically here to find out more about Chris Hemsworth before it talks about the movie. So the find person function has its own outputs. That's pretty cool. Our find movie takes now it had a time. Let's see. Actually, let me look at the inputs were person and a release date. Okay. So, and over here you see it says optional movie genre. That just didn't come in. Nobody said anything about movie genre. All right. So we know that hint worked. Let's try the next one, which a little birdie has told me might not work for us. I'm going to try a little different wording here. What movies did Chris Hemsworth work on in 2017? Now, this should actually give us the same result, you would think.
Here are a few movies released in 2017.
Well, we got the year, but it ignored Chris Hemsworth altogether, which is very sad. Let's find out what happened in the Debug Console. So we can see the time came in, but it didn't match anything with the person. Let's look at the conversation. Let's see. Hold on. And I'm not seeing the conversation here that I wanted. Let me run that again real quick. I need to reset the simulator. Make sure this is clean. Sometimes when you run...
Here are a few movies released in 2017.
Sometimes when you run more than one thing in the simulator without resetting it, you get it remembering things for you. All right. Now here's our conversation, our natural language. Okay. This is what I was looking for. I wanted to see which training did it match. It looks like it matched something about what, something in, so it matched a training that only worked for 2017 for the date time expression. The aligned NL kind of gives us that clue. It's got the movie, it's got the date time expression. We didn't come up with anything. So we need to make sure there's some training that has both an actor name and the 2017. It worked for the other way we worded it. Why didn't it work for this? So we'll switch back to the training window. Down for English. So in here, those concepts that we were using in the Debug Console are useful when you're searching. We can say we had a goal of movie, and we had a value for, let's see, I think it was person name. And we also, this one's going to have a value for time dot date time expression. If we search for that, we see just 7 items in the training that can match that. One of the hints that worked was find movies released in a year that had a certain actor in them. That one worked. We don't see anything in here that looks anything like what movies did so-and-so work on in the last decade. We see one for what movies did an actor star in, but we didn't see one for worked on or worked in. So we need to add more training. So I just happen to know that I worked on this training to make sure it was around, but I disabled it so that it wouldn't show up. So the training was missing because it was disabled. This will save us a little time here. We don't have to create the new training, but I found that I had to create a couple times of training. What movies did an actor work on last year, or what movies did an actor work on in a particular year? So if we re-enable these trainings or add them, as I'm doing, I'm getting I think I might be pressing the wrong way. Okay. I just went too fast for it. It's having some trouble saving it. Okay, I think they're enabled now. So if we go back and try this again, I'll reset. Now, when you change the training, you have to recompile the interpreter. So we'll try this again.
Here are a few movies released in 2017.
That didn't work, so I must not have enabled them properly. Looks like it's having trouble saving them. That didn't happen when I tried this earlier, so you're lucky. Things always break during demos. Here we go. It seems a little bit stuck. Might have found a bug.
Movies released in 2017.
Yeah.
Here are a few movies released in 2017.
Okay. Well, I think in order to get that to work, I may have to restart Bixby Studio. So let me try that. Oops. Now I can't see my... There it is. Okay, Debug Console. Okay, so let's go look at the training, make sure these things are enabled. had Dolan. No, Xavier. Yeah, they're still disabled. Okay. So something went wrong there when I was trying to re-enable them. Now it's working. Okay. Now we can say, oh, that's not where I want. I want simulator. Now I'm sure it'll work.
Here are a few movies released in 2017 with Chris Hemsworth.
That's what we were expecting to see. So we go to the debugger. We can confirm that it took in the person name and that it also generated a date time interval. And that's what we wanted to see. I think that was the end of my list of things here I wanted to go through. Okay, so let me just review with you about the Debug Console. The Debug Console can be used for viewing the overall plan, what happened in the platform when you sent up your request. You can see all the inputs for the functions that were given and determine how they came in. And you can examine the API request and responses that you get from the web and see what happened there. You can add console logs, and you can also find the dialogue that you might have, that the capsule creates, and figure out how it came to be. So I hope that was useful, and I think we're going to have time for some questions. If you want to take it away there, Roger.
Yeah. So why don't we switch the view to just show us
Okay.
and things. We're kind of done with the presentation. But yeah, so please ask your questions in the YouTube chat there. I think as we've been running this, we've had a few asked. So go ahead. Let's see. I think the first question, Jonathan, did you have the questions?
Yeah. Let me move myself real quick. Oh, there we go. Move myself in the bottom right. All right. So the first question by Hack Brew: can you create a breakpoint and then step through your code?
Good. Always a good question. Unfortunately, you can't step through the JavaScript code in that way. It all gets executed for you up on the Bixby platform as fast as it possibly can in order to bring the response back. And there isn't a way to step through the code while it's doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'd add though that because so much of Bixby is model driven, a lot is happening in the model. So Van was showing you really how to debug what's happening in the model. So kind of critical to understand that. But yeah, no, there isn't a way to do like traditional kind of breakpoints in your JavaScript code, at least yet in Bixby Studio.
And let's see, next question. I often create training utterances that don't work. Can you show me more details? And he asked this right before you did your segment on training. So hopefully that answered that question. And this next question is an interesting one from MJ Chan 42. If I log something really big, say 2K characters, a large string, or URI, not everything shows up in the debugger console. Is there a way to see the full log output?
Yeah, I don't think there's another way to see it that way. If you have some really big things in your JavaScript code that you need to manage, it's better to test those probably outside of Bixby Studio. So, for example, I have a database with one of my capsules that I store on the cloud, and I have to run code in the cloud to access that database. And so I can use the debugging features in the for that database out there. So inside the capsule is not maybe the best place to debug large volumes of JSON, for example.
Yeah. One trick that I sometimes use that sometimes works is I stringify large JSON objects, and then you can copy and paste that into a parser, and then then it'll parse it back out to you as the JSON. Sometimes I do that, and it works. Another question. Let's see, from Danielle to Disco. I'm sorry if I butcher your names, guys. Hey, thanks for the webinar. My question is not about handling errors, but on the light and dark theme for users. When do you plan to make it available for end users? Thanks in advance. And Roger, would you like to answer that one?
Yeah, so I'd say it's coming soon. What you need to do, though, in the next few weeks, for sure, let's put it that way, is definitely check your capsule and make sure that it works with both dark and light theme. We have a couple tutorial videos out on how to do that. It's really built right into the Bixby Studio. You can just change in the settings in the simulator and change it to dark and light theme. And the biggest challenge we've seen is when people use black and white icons or images there, particularly when they, Bixby, the kind of generic default theme is rather dark, not as dark as the dark theme. It works, but when you switch it to light theme, they often go away. So definitely something you want to worry about and check, and do that sooner rather than later is what I'll leave you with.
And a question that I accidentally skipped, sorry, Anne, it is from Anne Danis. I have a question. Can we see the dogs?
The dogs. Okay. Come on. Here's one. This is Buddy.
Hey, Buddy.
And then we got Sally. Okay, Sally, come on. Oh. Here's Sally.
Very cute. And you didn't ask for cats, but I have a cat here too, right here. Oh, I just woke her up though. So she's a little sleepy. All right.
Out, my dog is upstairs.
Roger, you might have to go get him.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. The next question from Mr. Jeff Wong. Sometimes my NL training is learned, but sometimes flips to not learned. How do I troubleshoot and fix this?
Yeah, I've seen that happen before.
Yeah.
Sometimes that happens because you've got more than one training that applies to the same thing. So a lot of times it's because you have duplication. If something isn't learned, it might be because you've already learned it with another one like it, and the one you've got is extra. So you would test it in the simulator to see if it's working or not. And if that one's marked as not learned, but what you wanted to say is working, then you could probably delete the one that says it's not learned.
Yeah. And next question from Shubham Agarwal. Will Bixby capsules ever be able to be monetized by developers? And Roger, you want to take this one?
I think that's a great idea, and stay tuned. That's all I can say.
All right, and next question from Jeff. Will we be doing a presentation on stories in the future? And I guess I can reword this as Van, in the future, would you like to do another presentation on stories?
I would. In about a month, I think I might be ready for one of those.
Great, great.
Have some things I've been working on for that.
Great. So, question from MJ Chang 42, or I guess it's more of a comment on the large strings. One workaround for large string logs is to generate a diagnostics report and grep through there. I believe the full string is in the file name. It's a great suggestion. Thank you. And people, let's see. And Danis asked, why dad? I believe in a response to your dog.
So I have a little tip and things like that, because this is something I always forget to do. And it drives me nuts. And then I realize that I was silly doing it. So when you're using when you have a concept that's an enum, and then you go using your training and you're like, whoa, why doesn't that training work, right? That's because an enum, if you're going to use it in training, requires a vocabulary. And I will say personally, I always forget that. And I have literally sat there like tearing my head out, restarting the studio, convinced that Bixby is wrong, and then realizing, oh, whoops, I forgot to put a vocab file in. So I don't know if that anyone else runs into that, but that's a challenge that I have. I seem to not remember to do that. So enum equals vocab.
Yeah,
Good
the
work.
movie agent capsule has an enum in it for the genre of movies, I think.
Okay. And Jeff asked, what capsule has Van authored?
Oh, thanks for asking. My Brain capsule and Marketplace is the one that I wrote to help you remember small things like people's birthdays or phone numbers and things like that.
Okay.
It's actually the code is freely available on GitHub, so you can go look at how it's implemented and so forth. I sort of wrote it as an example of how to use a database that's in the cloud. It uses DynamoDB on AWS.
Great. And Hackbrew asks, how do you know when to make a concept required that's set as optional versus adding a new training as you did in the example?
Okay. The movie agent had three different it had three different inputs, and they were all optional. And how it had that was if there wasn't any provided, then it would drop all of the inputs that it was looking for and ask you for a movie genre and do it based on that. So it's kind of up to you how you want to do it. You could say a particular input might be required, but the movie genre is a really excellent example of how to make them all optional and then deal with the fallout if the user doesn't provide anything. You can just say, find a movie to movie agent, and it will do the right thing. It'll ask you about a genre.
You know, I might add on to that. I mean, I think I really like that question. Because one thing you can do is when you're developing is make everything required. Because then the training will just fail right away, right? It'll immediately not work and show you something is missing as input, which might be easier to figure out and debug than actually going and showing what Van did. Now, obviously, the use case for that was clearly they're optional because you can have all these phrases, whether it has you ask for a year or an actor or a genre or not. But when you're developing Capsule, like I know that I've definitely flipped things and made them required just because I couldn't figure out what was going on. And then when I made them required, I saw the error quicker. So yeah, a little bit, maybe I like that question because there's a little bit of a hint in there that may work depending on how you develop things. How I develop is probably very different than anyone else or what other people do, but I do flip things to required and I get less confused that way. Maybe I get easily confused, so.
Great. And then Frank E says, Roger, right on with the enum and vocab. So I think he liked your little tip there. And yeah, I think we caught up with the questions that are currently in the chat. If anyone has any more, obviously just toss them in there. And really wanted to thank Van for coming to join us for this webinar. I think he did an amazing job showing how to use the debugger and stuff. So yeah.
Thank you.
And
let's see, are there any more questions? All right. Well, Van, you must have given a great presentation because everyone got things. So before we leave, we are going to run a little raffle. We're giving away some Bixby swag and things. And I see that, let me check, 86 people signed up on Eventbrite ahead of time. So that's a hint. If you sign up at Eventbrite ahead of time, rather than joining it gives you the YouTube live link, but you also are eligible for our giveaways. So let's go ahead and do the giveaway. So I'm going to have Bixby do it. Hang on, let me lock. So I need a random number between 1 and 86. Give me a random number between 1 and 86.
Running some quick calculations. Drum roll, please. Your number is 18.
Number 18. Giancarlo Aslo, you are going to get some Bixby swag.
woohoo!
All right.
Congratulations.
Giveaway number 1. All right, there's 4 more. Give me a number between 1 and 86.
Running some quick calculations. Drum roll, please. Your number is 80.
80. Let's see. Number 80 is Janice Taylor, congratulations. You're going to get some Bixby swag. All right. 3 more. Are you going to be next? Give me a number between 1 and 86.
1 second. Just double checking my math. All right. Looks like your number is 53.
53. 53 is Ashish Jha. Okay, Ashish. Awesome. I don't know if you're on
Woohoo.
there. I don't know if you are, Ashish. All
Party
right.
time.
2 more. Give me a number between 1 and 86.
1 second. Just double checking my math. All right. Looks like your number is 7.
Number 7. So an early register is Ann Nora. All right. Congratulations, Ann. All right. Very last one.
Congratulations.
Who's going to win the last one?
Last one, guys.
Give me a number between 1 and 86.
Running some quick calculations. Drum roll, please. Your number is 6.
Number 6, another early register. Okay. I'm going to mispronounce this name, so I apologize. Modazim. You have won the final set of Bixby swag. So great job, all 5 of you. So this is a good reminder that we do these office hours on the 2nd Friday of every month. So next month, do we have an agenda for next month, Jonathan? Or we still...
I believe it's slated to be development for the fridge, but we'll see about that.
All right. Well, it's going to be something cool and exciting, that I guarantee. So look for your email. You'll get it. Look on us. Follow us on Twitter. So if you're not following us, you need to, at Bixby Developers. You can follow us on Twitter or Facebook. And if you're not subscribed to this YouTube channel, you definitely need to go do that. But we'll announce everything about the monthly office hours very soon for next month. And then go sign up and you can win some Bixby swag. And unless there's any more questions, nope, no last minute questions.
All right.
To thank you, Van and Jonathan, for and the cats and the animals for being the best fans. So thanks, guys.
Yep. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Once again, follow us on Twitter or Facebook and subscribe to this YouTube channel.
All right. We're signing off. See ya.